welcome to the Seton Rivals podcast. Wow, this is year 7, episode 1. Brett Quintyne, Ralph Amsden and Chilly. We're here again with you. This is the football preview show. And fellas, even before we talk some serious football, Chilly, I know we go back and forth. How you been since middle of December?
Oh, man, I feel like, the sky's kind of fallen and then kind of risen back up and stuff. I've been all over the place, so. And shout out to my New York Yankees. They're like the best team in baseball right now.
They are.
They look good.
You misspoke, though. You said your New York Yankees. Our New York Yankees. We
I'll get to that in another episode.
We could have another podcast with that alone.
Peru, Taiwan, LA, been all over the place. And, it's been amazing. Had a pretty cool year so far, so just trying to make it through. I might get a dog, who knows.
Mr. Ralph Amsden, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to be back and doing this, and this is always, no matter what we have going on, this always kind of feels like home base.
That's very true.
Like this is the thing we've been doing longer than anything else. I launched a website covering, a podcast covering the Arizona Cardinals, the Phoenix Suns, Arizona State Sun Devils, all of high school sports, and then, we're bringing this podcast over to be part of that at ArizonaSportscast.com. But I wouldn't go anywhere without this show. This show has been the foundation for everything that we've all sort of gone on to do. Because I know you spend your time. You came today from co-hosting the AZ Prep show, right?
AZ Prep's 365 show. That's been going really well. And just overall, it's, I think you said on the head, it's kind of springboarded me to get involved with a few other things. In a roundabout way, that has led to doing some stuff on Fox Sports Arizona, the title games with baseball and softball. So, yes, indeed, this is home base. It's been recorded in a lot of different venues, but in the end, when the three of us are together, it's special. It definitely is. And speaking of special, yes, we continue to talk about the Chandler-area teams, and want to kick it off with the Seton Catholic Sentinels this year. Last year, 8 wins, 4 losses. They had a nice quarterfinal run under Churchillville. Coach Mike Churchill is now with Tampa Bay. And just overall, it's weird how this will be the third coach in 3 years. Pete Wellheim, I believe, who used to coach Highland, but he was with Seton Catholic at one point. What do we know about the Sentinels? I know Kaysen Upchurch, he returns, and we could use that segment in a different way. He does return. He returns kickoffs nicely.
Literally. I think that's going to be the athlete that they kind of build around. They lost a lot of players. Vince Wallace, their stud quarterback.
Wade.
It's going to be tough. Obviously, they lost Nick Wade, but they had already lost him. So, I think Upchurch is who they build around, and we'll see what the Wellheim regime has to offer, and I'm excited for this.
I saw them out in Scottsdale, 7-on-7 tournament. I was genuinely surprised by some of the. They got some big athletes.
Good.
They've got some size, and I think that's going to be helpful because this is their 3rd, 4th year in 4A, which they were dominating at the 3 level. 4A is
toughest region in the 4A too.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to deal with Saguaro and
Mesquite and Arcadia.
Mesquite has a D1 quarterback, and Saguaro has 30 D1 players, and Arcadia obviously has built up, and that's...
And Marcos is on the rise too.
Yeah, and Marcos has got a really talented running back that they're going to have to find some way to solve this year. So, there's no days off for that team. Hopefully they can keep some of the, that work ethic. I hate to see them on their 5th coach in the last 6 years.
Doing it right. That's true.
Right? You would like for them to be able to have some stability, and knowing that Wellheim has been a high school coach all this time, and that he was at Highland for a long time, and I'm sure if they would have wanted to keep him on, he would have been happy to stay, and he went straight from being a high school coach to still being a high school coach.
Right.
He went to Dobson after that, and now he moves just a couple miles down the road to Seton Catholic. I think that maybe he is somebody who could genuinely retire, hold this job for a long time, because it is a really good job with really good facilities and great community support. But you got to be the right fit for that. And I'm hoping that he can be that. One hallmark of some of the teams that I watched him coach with Highland is the good special teams play. So having a good kick returner, having a good punt returner is going to be huge for him, because that's what he had in Tyler Johnson when he was out at
Highland.
out in Highland, and so they've had some pretty good athletes out there. He's no stranger to that, but they're going to be competing against some really, really great teams. He hasn't won a lot of games, if we're being honest. And so
that's fair.
I think you and I, Chilly, might have been at his last playoff game.
Yeah, for
Highland
Chaparral.
against Chaparral, and they almost won that game. And if not for maybe a couple of coaching decisions, they would have maybe given Tyler Johnson the ball when you're on 4th and 1 from the 1 yard line, instead of splitting him out as a 6'4", 260-pound decoy out on the right flank. So but you got to be able to get yourself in a situation like that to be able to make that coaching mistake. I don't know if Seton's ready to be in big time pressure situations. I don't know if this will be a down year for them, but everybody else is sort of on the rise.
Like you said, Chilly, tough division that they're in. They got some. They got some work to do. But,
I think one benefit for Walheim is he's not going to get that Tyler Johnson type of athlete at Seton, so he's really going to have to do his job in coaching all these other kids up. And Walheim's the type of coach that I could see him doing that. I could see him working with players, bringing them up together versus having one star athlete that just attracts all the attention.
Absolutely, good stuff. And as always, we are certainly rooting for the boys from 1150 Dobson Road. The Arizona College Prep Knights, ACP, Myron Bluford. Honestly, they haven't won a ton of games recently, but the one thing we do know is Coach Bluford works the kids hard, and I say that in a good way. I think we feel that it's a program that's on the rise. He is a CUSD guy all the way. So I think he's got a couple of returning guys, Mark Chavez and Brian Dyson. Hopefully that turns into a nice quarterback receiving punch. I don't know too much about the depth of the program, but in general, ACP will be rooting for the Knights.
The best way to build any program is from the ground up, and I think that's what Blue gets an opportunity to do. So I'm excited to see what the Blue crew can do, and I know they're going to play hard. They're going to have that, as Cody Cameron would say, that get-after-it mentality. So I'm excited for them.
Definitely, and we can jump into the Valley Christian Trojans, a school that's, I'm going to say, very very near and dear to our hearts. It's one of those things that I think we touched on it last year. The podcast is so much better when Valley Christian is having a strong season. I mean, it really is. Kirk Sundberg has done some amazing things. They were 9-4 last year. Heck, they went to the semifinals last year in 3A. 9-4 they ended up, lost to Northwest Christian, but we saw them beat Coolidge, and then they went up to Page and won that one. Vinny Lagata's back, and overall, Ralph, I like what's happening over there, and I think they are going to stay at a nice, consistent level under Sundberg.
Yeah, Kirk Sundberg, as much as anybody that I've ever been around, cares about his kids on and off the field. I mean, he's a genuine... that's a Christian school, and sometimes Christian school athletic programs are, Christian in name only. When you enter into the field of competitiveness, then essentially that becomes the culture of competitiveness, and the culture of athletics becomes sort of the primary driver and motivator for all things. I think the best high school team in the country is modern day. It's a private Catholic school, but they're out recruiting athletes. It doesn't matter what who you are, what you do. Come help this school win. Kirk Sundberg doesn't. I don't think he wants this team to be that. I think he wants I think he's a lot more interested in how the kids are, living and being discipled and who they become off of the field. But at the same time, he's a football coach. He's got that competitive drive, and he wants them to do well and be competitive, and in all things, honor their religion, and with football being included. They're not just, football's what they do, not who they are.
I mean, that's fair. That's
I think, and so just being around him and having had some conversations with him, that type of environment might not necessarily be for everybody, but I think the parents who pay tuition to put their kids in that type of situation do want that. And I think that having their kids in his hands, I think that they're absolutely making great choice, and I think he's honoring, those families' decisions. I would absolutely love to see them capitalize on the momentum that they had last year. They have got some very good players returning, And last year, I think we saw an offense from Valley Christian that we had never really seen before. They can move the ball in the air, at the 3A level. And at the 3A level, usually there's only one or two teams that can do that.
Right. If you can pass at the 3A level, it's nice. You can go a long way.
You're going to have an absolutely huge advantage. They did have some elite athletes last year that they're not going to have this year. Matt McCrate is one of them.
He was good.
But, you guys, Chilly loves Vinny Legata. I've seen him play a couple of
Triple threat. I mean, receiver, passing, and rushing.
Yeah,
so,
we talk a lot about, on this podcast for the last 3 years, we've talked a lot about Ty Sifferman from Basha. He's got a little bit of that in him that no matter where you plug him in, he's an elite performer.
And what I like about Sundberg, young guy, he is, I believe, in it for the long run. Has young kids. He's not someone
He's got like 4 kids under 4 years old.
Yeah, so he's not in, at least on the surface, it doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, he's a guy who I think...
Which is cool.
Which is great. He'll send his kids there. He'll be there for 10, 12 years or so.
And that's what we hope for these Valley Christians and these Seton Catholics and stuff like that.
And that's what Hogs, the athletic director there, that he coached a friend of mine in baseball who is like a 39-year-old pastor in Seattle now. He's still there coaching, and you had just said before the podcast that his son's going to come up through and
correct
and play there as well. So to be able to have that family environment in the middle of a city where a lot of kids transfer back and forth and stuff, it's a really big deal.
And I think Sundberg has this unique opportunity where he was able to get in when the program was kind of down and rebuild the foundation. And now he's got 2 Hansel boys coming back, Andrew and Jaden. I think Jaden is going to be a legacy at quarterback and take over from, I'm guessing, his brother.
Makes sense.
I think that he's going to have an opportunity to have a spectacular year with Legata, like Ralph said, and Canfield coming back.
And a Division I defensive back in Justin Stinson.
Right.
There we go.
Like, how often
this seems
can
to
you
be
say that?
Good team. Very good team. And they'll...
Northwest Christian, watch out.
Right.
Watch out.
They'll go a long way. No, Valley Christian definitely is
Yuma Catholic on notice.
on
notice.
They beat Yuma Catholic last year, right?
Yeah, but Yuma Catholic, they think they're coming back with this 5,000-yard flamethrower that they're going to put these numbers back up. I'm thinking Valley Christian got to be in that mix. We just came off a 9-win season when nobody thought we were going to win 9 games.
And beat Yuma Catholic at Yuma Catholic.
Yeah.
So I believe they went down.
So we here, Valley Christian, we here.
And it's been a long time since they've won as many as 9 games. So they're definitely on the rise.
And shout out to their hooper, Logan Phillips, that I saw play at the Greg Rosenberg Classic over there at the facility. Real quick, I just had to throw that in there because he goes to Valley Christian.
You wouldn't be you if you didn't mix in those various shout-outs. Speaking of shout-outs, let's shout out the Casteel Colts. Last year, they lost a fantastic quarterfinal game to the Higley Knights, 34-27. They're up 27-20 in that fourth quarter, and ultimately they ended up on the short end. I guess the first thing we'll even mention, congrats to Brock Dew, offensive lineman. I believe he's...
Who I actually think is their best player. Because I know there's some questions about that. I'll let Ralph answer those a little bit later.
Oregon,
you and me are going to fight about Casteel. I'm 100% sure we're going to get in the fight.
I'll say this. They're my question mark. I say that because we've really only known Casteel through the Gunner Cruz era. I'll say I don't know how deep they go, and they're not going to fall flat, not at all. But again, the Godwins, the receiver whose name escapes him, I don't know what they have after that. So this will be the first time that's what I was thinking of.
Well, he's gone.
This will be the first time they line up under center essentially without Gunner Cruz, and one quarterback doesn't make the whole thing, but it'll be a different look.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them because they're losing not one special player, but a handful of special players. It just starts with Gunner Cruz, and obviously, there's been some sort of exodus of sorts. I don't know what that's due to, but Newcomb is an absolutely fantastic coach, and I love a lot of what he does when he's coaching these kids up. I know he's got a super talented junior quarterback, and I know he has a super talented incoming freshman quarterback. So I'm curious to see how this all works out. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen over at Casteel this year. Last year, I was on the record saying that I thought that this team was closer to 8 wins than 2 wins. This year, I don't know if I would make that same prediction.
It's a rough conference.
Maybe, that's Santan region. I believe that's the name of their 5A conference. So, they got
It's the toughest
Williamsfield,
one.
Higley. It is the toughest
It's one of the toughest ones.
So it's they've got their work cut out for them.
I think that Casteel was designed to be a special type of school in the way that, so was Arizona College Prep, right? So it's supposed to be elevated academically. You're supposed to be going in there and doing the work to be able to get a scholarship with your academics as much as your athletics. I've heard some rumors that the coaching staff kind of feels the same way. And I'm not 100% against that. If that's not for you, if that's not the environment that you want to be a part of, there are schools to the left, right, north, south, east, west, all over the place where maybe you can go and you can have a little bit of a different situation. I can't sit here and be pro-transfer and pro-family picking the right situation for them and then hate on the school that a lot of people seem to be moving on from. To me, I feel like that's a little bit of a personal inconsistency. At the same time, I never want to see anybody transfer. I never want to see anybody leave. I would love for everybody to feel at home where they're at. Hunter Barth is one of my favorite high school football players ever. I've known that kid since he was in kindergarten. I hate the fact that he has to sit out 5 games. Brant Goodwin is going to break the record for most receptions in a high school football player's career. He's going to break Cade Warner's record, and I hate that that's not happening at the school that he spent 3 years catching passes from Gunner Cruz, and he has to sit out 5 games out at Saguaro. So, I would love for these kids to all stick around and not be missing games. There's nothing I hate more than that. But if it's not the right situation for you, you got to move on. They still have 140 plus players out there, so it must be the right situation for somebody.
Right. That's
so
program.
But are they going to be able to compete with a division full of teams who are all, maybe outside of Campo, who are all championship contenders?
Rewinding what Ralph said a little bit ago about the academics over at Casteel, I find that absolutely amazing because I was told this story that Gunner Cruz actually didn't have to stress himself out in preparing to go up to Wazoo early. Versus and I know a couple quarterbacks have done that, or a couple players have done that in the past here in Arizona, but when you don't have to stress yourself out and cram in summer schools and do school around the clock, I think that is an amazing setup for you to, further your athletic opportunities if you can get out of a school in 3.5 years to get into college and start absorbing that playbook. So what Casteel has in terms of their academic formula, matching an athletic goal, I think that's fantastic. Like I said, I don't know what the exodus is due to.
Right.
I just know that there is one. It's a thing. So, and we have to address it.
Sure.
And when your head coach leaves right before the season starts, and you end up in a new situation anyway that maybe some of the parents weren't used to or expecting, I think that's a thing that in modern high school football you have to expect that some of the players are going to move out too. Not a lot of these players thought that Newcomb was going to be the head coach. That was something that snuck up on them when Stowers, Art Modell in the middle of the night is in a different state on a moving truck, and that's not to say anything. But you do what's best for your family.
Stowers, yes.
So do I. But
Stowers was great.
But it puts you in a situation where you have to make a
You said
decision.
Art Modell, though. Dang.
Hey, when you're on a moving van in the middle of the night and you wake up in another state and all the people that were rooting for you are like, oh, that's 1,000 miles from here. That's a situation that everybody kind of has to come back and reconcile. And so some of those people are going to reconcile that by finding a different situation altogether, and I still think that they're going to be competitive. I think they struggled to run the ball a little bit last year, and I'll be interested to see how they bring that back into play.
Mac Johnson was the man.
And he got injured early.
He got injured on his first ever carry of his senior year.
Yeah.
And so, that'll be interesting to me. But Brock might be a little bit undersized, but just as far as technique goes,
he's
phenomenal. You have to run with him as maybe somebody that you'd build a whole offensive line around.
He's one of my favorite offensive linemen.
At Arizona State University, in front of the coaches out there, he dominated. All those, he'd go up against Quentin Somerville, all the Saguaro, and he just absolutely dominated. And so
his technique is almost flawless.
Yeah, so Oregon extending an offer to him, hopefully that kicks off some other schools because I think he could. You don't need to be 6'3", 6'4" to play center.
No, you don't.
You don't. You just need leverage and to be smart, and he has both of those things working for him.
He's amazing.
He's got a cool haircut too.
Yeah. The Hamilton Huskies last year, 3 wins and 7 losses. No playoffs for that team, but they return Nick Garvey, Brendan Rice. What do you guys look for them? Just overall, obviously, they're plain and simple. There's no place to go but up. That's for sure, and we'll see how deep they are.
Fireworks from the offense for sure. Everybody absolutely knows that I'm enamored with Nick Garvey and his abilities. I think that he's going to be able to find any sort of receiver in his fleet, whether it's Lewis or Taylor or Brendan or whoever. I think that this team is way more talented than people are giving it credit for. I don't know if I'm ready to pick this rivalry between them and Chandler as a upset of the year like I did with Desert Vista and Mountain Point last year, but I do think that they are making their way back. Nick for sure is a fighter, and I think that this team is going to be defined by his ability to keep them in games.
Absolutely.
I love McGinnis, the lineman, and Trojan's been handling that business. I think he's going to take care of that defense, and Hamilton, they might not be back, but they back.
Right, yeah. No, they're certainly better than they were a year ago, and I think they'll be postseason bound without a doubt. I think that's very fair to say.
But they'll be postseason bound because they'll have a completely watered down 6A playoffs. If they go 3-7, they're going to make the playoffs.
They're not going to go 3-7.
Well, they won't. Yeah,
are we going to do this again?
I don't think
they might. They might.
They're closer to 7-3 than 3-7.
I got to agree with that.
They're closer to 7-3 than
agree with that.
3-7. Ralph,
they
might do this Casteel thing over again.
They might not win a game in the region.
They're not going to win a game in the region.
Well, they got one
I'm
win
definitely
in the
taking
region
that bet.
Last year, did they go over?
Did they beat Brophy or did they go over?
I think they went over. They were over the region.
There's no way they go over again.
But they're not.
There is no
Nobody
way.
else got worse, so you can say they got better. That defense was leakier than an 80-year-old man with no prostate.
That's rather deep.
That's gross, but
yes.
So was their defense.
Agreed, but I just...
Okay, but some of these teams were absolutely phenomenally
championships.
strong on offense.
7 championships built on defense. I don't care what they do on offense.
I would even say
I do not care what Hamilton ever does on offense. They should score. They should absolutely score. They have elite.
Perry was ridiculously
Even if
strong.
it's not a watered down 6A, I think Hamilton gets in the playoffs this year. Even if there was no open division type of thing.
There is not a single kid who attends Hamilton right now who doesn't know Perry is their dad. There's not a single kid that attends Hamilton right now that has seen anything other than destruction from Chandler.
No, that is fact. That is fact. There's nothing they can do about that. There's nothing they can do about that.
Guess who never had a win against Hamilton in the history of their school till last year? Basha. Do you think they got worse? Basha didn't get worse.
Basha got better, much better.
Our boy Jason Jewell is now the head coach at Brophy, and he's already got a dude out to USC. They're not getting worse.
I think Hamilton has gotten better. I think they've gotten to a point where they are going to be competitive with all those teams.
Well, I say this: they got better. I don't know if that'll mess.
And this freshman class over there is absolutely crazy.
I don't know if that'll reflect in their regions. No, but
yes, some of them are defenders.
Here's the thing: they got better, but I don't know if that reflects in their region play. But it'll reflect in the games against Chaparral, Highland, Pachon. And I'm not going to say they're beating Highland or anybody, but I think they will have more than 3 wins this year.
If you expect Jack Miller not to go in there and throw for 400 yards, then you're...
Did he throw for 400 yards last year?
That's what I'm saying. Then you're guessing. You're guessing. Are they going to be able to stop Jared Williams? Are they going to be able to stop anybody? They got Arnell Christian to deal with.
You telling me that Trojan can't hit?
Here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem. If you could bring up 6 or 7 players' names on that defense, and you and I would agree that they're great players. Jeremiah Trojan deserves his UCLA scholarship. He was already a good player. He was already a good tackler, and now he's put on the weight and he looks like a Division I football player.
Yeah.
You and I could individually mention 8 or 9 kids on this defense and say that they're all great. This has been a coaching issue. I
think they're figuring some of that stuff out.
They had a secondary with 3 D1 kids and were giving up 350 yards passing a game. That's a coach. That's not being in the right position. That's not being prepared. So what do they have that figured out? That's the biggest. They're going to score. They're absolutely going to score. They got a good offensive line. They got a good quarterback. They have good receivers. They've got good players on defense. But that offense would score on accident, even if the coaching was inept. And you and I know that the coaching is actually really good out there on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, I can't just answer a question with yes. that has been no for 3 years without seeing any evidence. I'm going to have to watch them come out and shut somebody out like they used to do all the time for me to say, maybe they can play.
Nobody is shutting anybody out nowadays, though. Like, that's why, like, even Perry's going to roll up 250, 300 yards of offense against Chandler. It's just too bad that Chandler scores 93 points in the game. That's just a thing now.
It is.
Brett.
No, you're right. You don't see the zeros hung up anymore.
Yeah, no.
That's. I'll go with that.
When Chandler put the donut on Mesa last year at all 3 levels, that's why I went out and bought those donuts for all 3 levels of those defenses, because that meant something. Like, you don't see that anymore.
That's true. That's very true. So we'll see what Hamilton has in store, but I do think that they will have more than 3 wins this year.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'll say that we're only a year and a half removed from them losing to Hamilton 72-14 in the playoffs. Or to Perry.
To Perry, yes.
Yeah. So it's still the same team to me, and they have to prove otherwise.
Okay.
Because in their last, you said they went 4-7 last year?
3-7.
They went 3-7 last year? So they're 3-8 in their last 11 games. A team that we know for winning 53, 56
Yes.
games.
No, last year I think was certainly their rock bottom year. I mean, the fallout of all of that stuff obviously certainly showed in 2018, and I just think they will be a better team in 2019. The Basha Bears, a team that started off hot last year, 4-1, finished up the back half of their schedule 2-4 for a 6-5 record. But Gabe has a lot of friends. I think it's fair to say. The Bears, the only reason I'm going to say why they didn't go perhaps a little bit further, they ran into the buzzsaw. Perry having to play them back-to-back to the end of the season.
And they played them tough.
Yes, they played them very tough. No, I think Basha has improved. I think overall, Camden Mateen, very big part of that team. And we talked about, of course, Micah Harper. Chris McDonald, fantastic. Not Micah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see what goes on with Basha, but this is a strong Basha team. Maybe not elite yet, as we'd like to call it sometime, but much better than even last year's good team.
So Ralph woke me up at like 7 in the morning to ask me to go to media day at Basha this morning, and I got the awesome opportunity of catching up with Gabe Friend again, because I caught up with him at the super scrimmages and stuff. And
you guys have a nice, good relationship, waking each other at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm at Chase Field, and I see you guys sitting next to each other in a little tight chair in the
two different chairs, but yes,
it looked like
cozy.
One chair, but you guys look nice together.
But yes, word to Aaron. So, anyways, I talked to Gabe, and I got him on my list of quarterbacks that I do believe will throw for 4,000 yards this year. And the first thing that he wanted to do was he wanted to tell me about the only way that he's doing that is because he's got great offensive linemen.
Absolutely.
Mikey Sliskovich, Matt DiPodesta, James Noss, Sam Bork. He wanted to make sure that they were credited because those are the guys that are going to keep him clean and upright so that he can throw these passes to Micah Harper, Camden Mateen, and everybody else. So real quick, got to shout out that Basha line that is way undercredited for
a line that will probably dominate in that opening game against North.
Yeah, I was telling Ralph out there at media day, I'm anticipating that this team could potentially have 350 points going into Game 5.
This team is going to start a true freshman on the offensive line.
Is that right?
James Durand, Jonathan Durand's little brother.
Okay.
I mean, I had a chance to talk with him, and
is that going to be the other guard?
Yeah, and so we're gonna talk this, or we're gonna play those interviews for you at the end of this podcast. I've got head coach Chris McDonald, quarterback Gabe Friend, we got Micah Harper, and the freshman James Durand. So we'll play all 4 of those interviews back to back at the end of this podcast. But I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how this team responds to a group of seniors that really helped get them above water last year, finally get some oxygen in their lungs, make football fun again. They were having fun out there. The environment was good. They're starting to regain and rebuild some culture. And I could not be more excited because this job was never as fun as when both Basha and Perry were good and when they would go head-to-head and those games would be good. And so, I'm really, really excited for them. They are losing some seriously talented seniors.
Yeah.
There's going to be 17 or 18 guys starting for the very first time on this team. And so a lot of people are really going to have to step up, which makes it great that they have some of the leadership that they have. But the people who were playing as juniors on last year's team were very talented.
Good. Oh, very
So
good.
And
I
they
think,
got those first 4 games, the entry games, like those are going to be, good cushion for them to get ready for region play.
maybe, but you and I know that they're going to see some really good athletes.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they play Red Mountain and Highland this year, I believe.
That's like games like that comes after the first 4 games because they got North and La Jolla.
They got North.
Well, yeah,
and Lloyd's
Sandra
got
Day.
And Sandra Day's got, they got to go out to Sandra Day, which you live by Basha, Brett. You know how long of a drive
I do.
that is. And they got, they've got, I think they're returning the leading receiver yardage wise in 6A and Damian Ortiz. They got a pretty decent quarterback as well. So their defense is definitely going to get tested early. Defense is really what set them apart last year. I think they had like a 4-game stretch where they gave up like 2 total touchdowns. And so if they can do that again, if they can keep putting the ball back in the offense's hand,
Yep.
and the offense can find some identity, the thing I worry about are they going to be able to run the ball?
Correct.
Well, gone is what's his name? Lumber.
Our boy Cole Lumber,
Yeah.
even he was more of like a scat back type.
Yep.
Well, they're going to throw it 40, 50 times a game because my man friend got to go with that 4K. So I mean, do the math on that.
And a big thing I'll say is
But they're also going to play in a lot of close games, and you can't win close games without a running game.
Keep him honest. Chris McDonald, I think, knows what he's doing.
They need to win 2 region games last year because last year they were 1-3. They lost to Brophy last year. They need to get that Brophy game because, for argument's sake, let's say they beat Hamilton. Perry and Chandler still, at least on paper, a cut above. So I think the big thing for Basha is going 2 and splitting at least in the region as opposed to being sub 500.
And honestly, look at the growth from last year because we're talking about 2017. They lost to Hamilton 56-0.
Yes.
And then they come back and beat them the next year. That never happens.
Correct.
That amount of radical change, that never happens. And so, that's I think a really big deal for them to not only have gotten their first ever win over Hamilton, but have it come off of maybe the worst loss in school history. That's huge. And then to play Perry close twice, I think was a pretty big deal for them as well.
Absolutely.
I might be taking Basha as my big upset in rivalry games.
Okay, sounds good to me.
But yeah, I noticed your predictions aren't as strong as they were last year. On Basha, that was the one you were fully confident coming out and saying that the hiring of Chris McDonald was worth X number of wins, and then they met your expectations.
Yeah.
That way, if I was you, that'd be my main bragging point on this podcast.
I think the world knows.
Oh, goodness. The Perry Pumas, Chuba Purdy, Jordan Young, Dre Mayberry, 55 seniors, if I'm correct. They've got a very big roster, huge roster. This is a team that has lost the final, obviously, each of the last 2 years to the Chandler Wolves. Definitely solid quarterback, Chilly, that's for sure. And we'll see what goes on. I mean, I'm going to say they'll probably make that open division. That's where I look for, hey, who can match up against who?
Experience isn't the problem over at Perry anymore. Like,
Correct.
Experience and knowing how to win games, that's not the problem over at Perry. The problem is, how do we win versus Chandler? And I don't know if there's enough Purdy's left to figure it out. I really don't.
Oh, so the last go-round.
Yeah, so, I mean, Brock was absolutely phenomenal, did everything that a quarterback possibly could, and his team's lost to Chandler. Chuba is phenomenal and has done everything that he can, and he can't beat Chandler. And, I mean, I just don't know, like, if they'll ever solve this riddle. Like, and if you don't with the Purdy's, like, who can do it? These are 2 of the best quarterbacks at the
Correct.
state.
This is a window for Perry that they have to capitalize on. For Purdy and Perry, I believe. I mean, it's really a scenario when you lose this amount of depth next year, it will be significantly more inexperience than this year, 2020 to 2019. This is a win now type scenario.
I love Xavier James too, his athletic ability. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, like, where on this team do you match them up with what's in front of them and say, oh, they win here. This is where they win the game. Because I think that's the obstacle for them.
Because I don't know about their running game this year. And again, if any Perry Pumas are listening, I'm not calling your running game weak or anything like that.
It would have been helpful for them to have Peyton Hill.
They lost one of their best ones.
Peyton Hill. Right. He's over at Higley now. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the experience factor is right there. We used to say, boom, the 3-headed monster. Now I don't know any of their monsters, so to speak. So we'll see.
I think Jordan Young has to have an absolutely
standout year.
Spectacular year. Like I really just want to say, like, beyond what Colby Dickey did. Like,
correct.
He's going to have like 1,800 yards receiving. Like, he's going to have to do something that separates him so far from everybody else.
1,800 yards receiving is a lot.
And I mean, that's what he's.
But that's what he's going to. Yes. Yeah.
That is what, and he's capable of doing it. So I mean, we're just going to have to see, like, if he can actually do it. And Chuba, he's going to have to do Chuba things.
Chuba, I think, is going to. I don't think the quarterbacking is going to be an issue at all. I think he's going to be dominant, like
3,000, 1,000.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
his sleep.
Right,
in his sleep.
Absolutely. It's what type of supporting cast is going to step out of this experience. We'll see.
Does the line hold the blocks long enough so that he can find an open receiver and throw for 4,000 yards and be 4,000, 1,000?
And they'll get tested early. Pinnacle. I think that's a great matchup. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'd rather them play Pinnacle in week 1 than somebody else who doesn't have a championship caliber team. So
and they better be awake for that game, because that's the only thing that Pinnacle kids have thought about since they lost in
the semifinals last year.
That's all they talk about. Every time I interview somebody from Pinnacle, that's all they want to talk about is we need to get Perry back.
And I can tell you that's where I'll be on August 23rd. I will definitely be over at Pinnacle at Perry. So we'll see. And then,
but I do want to say, every single year we go into the year and we start getting messages from people at Perry saying that we never cover Perry, even though we've got an entire freaking podcast dedicated to football schools in Chandler, and even though we can name 30 of the kids at Perry and probably not even 10 of the kids at most other schools. And every single year we get told we're not talking about it. And every single year we get told that they're championship caliber and this is finally the year that they overcome it. And I tell you what, not only am I not listening to that this year, I'm just going to block people. I'm not going to entertain any of it until you actually hold Chandler under 60 points.
You can't be championship caliber doormat.
No, listen to this. You want a number? I'll give you a number. 314. That's the number of points Chandler has scored in the last 6 games against Perry. Perry's given up 52 points a game to Chandler over the last 3 years in 6 contests. Here's the deal. Chandler's a really good football team. They don't average 52 points a game, which means they get up for just that game to remind you every single year of just how insignificant you are in comparison.
And speaking of daddies and knowing daddies.
Yeah, and if you don't want to be insignificant in comparison, you have to stop somebody. You absolutely have to stop somebody, and stopping somebody includes on the football field, not in the courtroom and not in an AIA, fake
setting.
Photograph situation. And I'm really disappointed in the way that some of the coaching staff over at Perry handled themselves last year, and I know that they don't like me saying the things that I'm saying about it, but here's the deal. I want Perry to be successful. I know they want to be successful. I don't want to hear about it. I want to see it. And maybe they listen to what I'm saying right now and say, well, who the hell are you? I'm the guy that watched you give up 314 points to Chandler in the last 3 years. That's who I am, and I got a podcast and I'm talking about it, and I would like to see you do better. It's not because I'm sitting here saying that I want you to stay down. It's not fun to go to a game and watch kids who have been pumped up by their coaches and teachers and everybody else get screamed at because they gave up 35 points in the first half. They got to find a way to mentally get over the hurdle. And I think that if there's any year that it could possibly happen, it's one in which Chandler had a coaching change and doesn't know their identity yet. But you still don't get to play them until the end of the year. So it's not like, if you were coming out playing them week 1, maybe it'd be a different thing. But if Chandler gets a chance to get their swagger, then you're going to have to play.
Which they will by the time that game happens. So, no, you're right.
And at the same time, I will say, if anybody could at least play the type of football that would keep Perry in the game, it'd be Chuba. I absolutely believe that. I watched what he did in the second half of last year's regular season game. I think he threw for about 300 yards just in that half alone. He's not somebody who gets down on himself. He's very just frenetic and dynamic and such a great football player. But if your defense doesn't give you an opportunity to be in the game, no high school football team should be able to watch the other team give their running back the ball up the middle 40 straight times. That's just like completely dejecting.
Absolutely.
2 years ago, I cheered for Perry. I didn't do my job at the state championship game because I wanted to see Brock Purdy go out on top, and they took the fight to Chandler. Then
It was a great game.
Last year, I was brokenhearted over Deshane James. Like, I was with Cody T. Cameron. I was literally on the brink of like being emotional when we found out that Deshane was going to miss the season. Like, I like these kids at Perry. I just want to see them do what we think that they can do. And Chuba Purdy, I think that, I don't care what anybody
But now, if you're
says.
saying all that about a Deshane game, how do you think I feel?
Right?
Well, yeah.
Like, I think Chuba Purdy's honestly like probably got to be like easily, without question, one of the top 10 quarterbacks west of the Mississippi. And I know some people will fight me on it, but he's so good, so talented. He's got the size. Like, what is he missing?
Sure. No.
Or just, can we please help their Chandler's punter get some film?
Yikes!
Please.
Yikes!
That kid wants to go to school too.
I heard that there was a Chandler punter that didn't let her in the last 3 years.
That's funny.
Well, if he was only playing against Perry, then probably not, because he wouldn't have come out on the
Crazy
field.
stuff. Anyway, moving right along, as we have covered 7 of the 8 teams that we will speak about last, but certainly not least, the Chandler Wolves, 3-time defending state champions, and as we know, new coaching change and just all that good stuff. New quarterback. Ralph, tell us about your alma mater.
Had I graduated, I could call him that.
I'm gonna, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
You wore the uniform.
Yeah, I did wear the uniform and played poorly. I also would not have been able to help stop this, Chandler team on defense. But I will say that I'm curious to hear, because Chilly, I think, maybe beat up on that offensive line a little bit last year. And
That's not even the truth. Dang. That's not even the truth.
Chilly said that they were the worst offensive line in the state or whatever, and then
What the?
no,
That's not what I said.
He said that of all of the championship teams, that offensive line he would put, if he was ranking them, he would put them toward the bottom. I think that the cool thing
That's
about
not even a bad thing, though.
yeah, you're right, and I will say that the cool thing about that is, what did they do? They responded, and that's what you want. You want people to listen to the stuff that we say on this podcast and be like, they're hating on us, I'm going to prove them wrong. And I feel like when you go out and you watch what they did in the state championship game, maybe that's not the ranking coming out of the season, the one that you thought going in. And then a lot of those guys are coming back. And so this is going to be...
I think they got 4 returners on the line.
Yeah, so this is the
good.
It's definitely... And then their backups are really good too.
Nehemiah Magley is a beast.
Yeah, I would say that the strength of this team... And Chilly, I think you might agree with me, which would be interesting after what you said last year, is that the strength of this team is actually that unit.
Yeah, I think the strength of this team is definitely on the offensive line, led by Nehemiah. I think that this team, they're very, very strong and well coached by Chris Chick, and they're gonna show that. They're gonna create opportunities for these running backs, this fleet of running backs led by Jaheim the Jet Brown
Absolutely,
Taylor,
he's solid.
the Tumbler, Eli Sanders, and you know what they say, speed kills, so I got to call him the assassin, Karan Adams. I think that this team is going to be such a problem. Oh, and I can't even forget about Nesbitt. Nesbitt's a stud too. Like, they might get like 4,000 yards rushing this season. It's going to be monstrous. And to couple that up with my quarterback over there, do some things, Mikey Keene, he is absolutely special and a treasure to watch. I don't know. This team is going to roll up so many yards under Garrettson. I'm excited to watch this team on offense.
All right, but pump the brakes on Mikey Keene. Let's not. We're not driving the hype train yet. We don't know, right?
He hasn't. I guess he hasn't. Taken real varsity snaps yet.
I'm looking forward to seeing him, because
Tomasi Posse's healthy and
obviously
good to go.
he hasn't really taken the real snaps yet, so we'll see.
I think Gunnar Maldonado being healthy.
Yes, that's big.
For this team.
With this stud offensive line, though, just protecting Mikey and these running backs for him to hand off to, I think we're watching a star be born.
I will say this is the best offensive line in the state. This is the best defensive line in the state.
Oh, for sure.
Including Sawar.
And if you win in the trenches, you are going to win a lot of games, and more than likely your last game of the year if you are great on both lines.
They have the best offensive and defensive lines in the state, and I to me that's not even a debate. I'd listen to somebody pitch me on Centennial. I'd listen to somebody pitch me, on I know Higley's got a pretty talented offensive line. I know there's a lot of teams out there but I don't think anybody pieces it together quite the way that Chandler did. I don't think anybody put in the work that they did, especially in the weight room. And then from pure talent perspective, Tyler, Buckner, the younger Magalay, that defensive line, Malik Reed, I know he's coming in a hybrid, and obviously they're really good on the linebackers. So what are the two question marks for Chandler? Well, the one question mark that has remained a question mark for Chandler throughout the history of Chandler High School is special teams. Are they going to have a kicker? Is the punter even going to get to play? But are they going to have somebody? Seriously though, kicker has been an issue for them, and so you have to get nitpicky when you're talking about
going
Chandler.
for 2 in the semifinal game.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously Jacob Conover meant a lot. He's the only quarterback that I know of to ever win 3 state championships. He did it on the highest level. He never lost to Spencer Rattler. He never lost to Hamilton. He never lost to to any other school.
He set the bar really, really high.
He didn't lose to the Purdy's. He's got 3 rings, and and then he absolutely blew out the Florida state champion and the Georgia state champion. Honestly, if it wasn't for a certain team out of Calabasas, I don't even know if he would have tasted defeat in his high school career. And so,
and he threw for like 400 yards that game
as a sophomore. Yeah, and so he's going to be very, very hard to replace. I don't want anybody to think of Mikey Keene as a replacement for Jake Conover, because he's a very different kind of player. And Rick Garrettson told us that he's the kind of player who they're going to try to make sure that he rolls out a lot. So he's very, very good at throwing on the run, apparently.
Very good.
So I think the question marks for Chandler are special teams, quarterback, and defensive backfield. And it's not if defensive backfield is a question mark for your team. Like as a unit, if defensive backfield is a question mark for your team, that's rough considering the quarterbacks that they're going to have to go against.
Correct.
But I think that those, deficiencies, air quotes, are going to be masked by their amazing strength in the front 7 on defense and their super talented running game and offensive line. I think that's
big. Just the fact that they have some ridiculous backs with a hell of an offensive line. That's going to control the line of scrimmage. That's going to chew up time when they need time to get chewed up. So when you have the running game with the line in front of it, it's crazy.
Eli Sanders is easily a 2,000-yard rusher on most teams. He comes in midway through the season. Yeah, I think he's that good. I mean, he rushed for 1,000 as a sophomore at whatever school that he was at before. So
it's going to be nice. It'll be fun to watch. It's a team that I think only has 3 home games all year. It doesn't really matter where they play.
They're at home anywhere that there's a 100-yard field.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
They're at home anywhere that there's a 100-yard field. So.
But it's just odd that there's only 3 games scheduled over at, we'll say, 350 North at Austin, yes.
But people think they're vulnerable, and so we'll see how the kids respond. Because resting on your laurels is a real thing. We watched it happen to Hamilton, right? Mm-hmm. We watched people show up and wear that Hamilton jersey and not put in the work. Right. Just expect things to work out the way they always do. So it's staying on top of the mountain is sometimes harder than climbing it. And Chandler's been on the mountaintop for 4 out of the last 5 years.
Yeah, we'll see if they can defend their 3-time state championship. But as always, it has been fantastic. And Ralph, I know we got the interviews for the Basha Bears coming up right after kind of the tail end of everything. But as always, it's good chopping it up with you, and probably get together after week 1, more than likely, and see who blew out who and who performed, who didn't perform, all that good stuff. But
and then look for just mini episodes throughout the year of just one-on-one sit-down interviews. We'll have some of those to break up the time in between podcasts as well.
Good stuff, fellas. Until next time, we are out.
Ralph Amsden, ArizonaVarsity.com, Basha Media Day. First time this has ever been done. I got Coach Chris McDonald out here. What gave you the idea, and how are you helping? How are you hoping this helps the team moving forward?
Well, I can't take credit for the idea. One of my assistants came up with it actually, and I thought it was a fantastic idea, so we kind of ran with it. And the hopes is to grow it, every year, make it bigger. And it was an opportunity again for for parents, they can come and see what's going on and take some background shots with their kids and things like that as well, and just kind of make it a kind of a Basha football community event. But it's all about bringing exposure to kids, and you guys all do a good job of that. And I thought, it probably makes your job easier too if you're given a time where you can come and just have all access, get what you want.
Well, I appreciate it. And I feel like you came in with maybe more so than any other job in the state, very clear benchmarks of what needs to happen at Basha High School. Like stabilize, build a foundation, start to put scaffolding down and build up from there. Last year felt like a really big step in the direction of making sure that this was a stable program. What do you feel like some of the major successes were last year in meeting that benchmark?
I'll be completely honest. I think it has everything to do with how mature our seniors were. And really, I think it had a lot to do with what they went through the 3 years before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think in a way it matured them. They had to handle adversity as a football player and as a football team and as a football program that maybe others didn't have to, right? They were going through multiple coaches, things like that. So I think in a way that was a huge part of why they were able to lay a foundation.
You're at Hamilton, helped kind of develop the passing game out there and move that offense forward. And in your time there, Hamilton wasn't afraid of anybody.
No.
And so, you go out, you get your first head coaching job, and then you come into the hardest division.
Yeah.
It definitely, I would say the hardest division in the state, definitely the hardest division in 6A. Like, that's not debatable. Was that time at Hamilton that, take on all challengers no matter what? Did that mentality kind of factor into you saying, I'll jump into this mix with the,
absolutely.
with the Brophies and the Chandlers and the Hamiltons?
I think we get into coaching because it brings back that competitive nature, and first, for the record, I appreciate you saying that I helped develop the passing game, but I'll be honest with you, man, I was just a cog in the machine. I had some really good mentors over there, that I learned from. So
you deflect like a 6'7" defensive lineman.
No. I had some really good, mentors, coordinators, and
you're only as good as the people that you're surrounded by.
and I learned from them more than.
I was about to give you credit for the 7 championships.
No, I appreciate that, but
Okay.
I was just I just played my role.
How many rings would Hamilton have if you never showed?
Yeah, no, nothing would change. That's how good that program was. They could have put anybody in my spot, and it still would have been the same. So, I learned a lot from my time over there, and it was at a point where from a national perspective, it wasn't Hamilton. The program itself wasn't scared to take anybody on, and I think what really opened up the eyes for that program was when they went out and beat the Florida State champ. Pretty good, on national TV out there, and people were like, "Wow, who's this?" And so from there it just kind of snowballed and whatnot. But I'm happy to be here. I think Basha is a program that we obviously want to get and excel to that level, and it's a day by day thing.
It's hard to do much without a community having pride in the situation
100%.
Without everybody being bought in. You're out there in Maricopa, and that was really the biggest hurdle. I live out there.
Yeah.
So I know exactly some of the stuff you were dealing with. It feels like some days living on the one end of town that I live on the north side, it'd be easier for me to just take my kids and drop them off somewhere else than fight the traffic going to the middle of town. Having the one school, having everybody know everybody, but it still have 50,000 people. And you helped, or other people around you helped. I'll get there before you. Well, other people, everybody kind of came together to develop some community pride, which makes it more appealing for people to want to stay there. I talked to Gabe, I talked to Micah, and they talked about, how the pride in this program is going. Even something as simple as the new uniforms gets people excited. Are you starting to see some of the same stuff happen at Basha that you saw out in Maricopa, where people are just getting excited to be part of this culture?
It's easier to tell at a place like Maricopa just because you got one high school, you know what I'm saying, in that town, and so you you can kind of see more when the community buys in. Here, communities bleed into each other.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't really, from the big picture, you can't really see, but I'd like to think so. I mean, I think that we get some great support, from the community. Our home games were a blast last year, and hopefully it continues to grow. And just we've got to build our brand of what Basha football is and what Basha High School is, quite frankly. And going back to trying to build the culture, out in Maricopa, it's such a transient community. I think it kind of helped me in terms of understanding, how to do that. And I'm still got a long ways to go, to be this ultimate leader. But I think, in all honesty, I think that kind of helped me just because of how transient it is. And you've really got to take, you might have a kid for 1 year, man, he's gone. And next thing you know, another kid's in. And it's just, and you've got to figure out how to put them in and implement them into the culture and things like that.
This is my last question. This is my favorite thing about being out here at, is it Wall Stadium, Wall Field?
Wall Stadium.
Wall Stadium. It's one of my favorite things about being out here is that one day one of my ultimate goals of covering high school football is to see the home stands filled out here, because you guys have the most enormous home
huge
section. And it would be really cool one time, because I've seen it about 80% packed out.
Right.
And it'd be tough to fill the whole thing, but I think if you guys start having some success, especially against the guys from down the way on Val Vista, has that ever entered your head? Like, one of the goals is I just want to see people standing because they can't sit down on the home side of Wall Stadium.
Well, I want to take it a step further. I want to see that packed, and I want to see people standing around this oval fence we got, just watching, small town football,
It's a cool, it's got the old Arizona feel to it, whereas not a lot of people have that anymore, where you look out one direction, and there's nothing, and every once in a while you get the smell of the pasture drift in, which is like, that's what I grew up with in here,
Well, then you're one of the few that like that,
but I think it's a true Arizona environment, all five senses. And so, anyway, I appreciate what you're doing out here, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
Ralph Amsden, Arizona varsity, out here at Basha High School's Media Day. It's a warm day. They got you out here in your uniforms. Everybody's looking clean. Micah told me you guys got some new threads. Is that true?
Yes, sir. New uniforms look really nice.
That's always exciting. I was talking to Todd Graham one time, and they asked, why does ASU have so many uniforms? And he's like, think back to when you played. What's the first thing that you did after putting your uniform on? You walked over and looked in the mirror. Everybody likes to look good. And so you feel like that kind of helps build some excitement?
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of excitement. We had a good year last year. Coach Max coming back this year, and we haven't had a solid program that was stable for a long time. So it's nice to be able to actually have uniforms come in, have a lot of coaches stay. And so it's just nice actually being able to look at new uniforms, because we've been talking since freshman year we're supposed to get new uniforms. Coach Max actually made it happen, get us new uniforms.
That's awesome. So you're going into your third year of playing experience. You got to play as a sophomore, split a little bit last year. Now you're the guy, and I kind of feel like a lot of quarterbacks get talked about, maybe you not so much. How do you react to that, of knowing that you have a lot of playing experience, the stats are there, the team was on the come up last year, but maybe you're not mentioned in the same breath as some of the other guys in the state?
I just know I have to prove myself this year. I feel like I did good last year, but I know I can do even better this year, and I've been training all summer, getting ready all summer, so I just know I got to come out and prove myself.
What was it like to have a guy like Ty Sifferman around who just was able, it seemed like anything that he tried he was good at, and how did he help you develop into taking over as one of the leaders of this team?
Obviously he's a great athlete, play any position on the field. If you ask him to play O-line, he could probably find some way to play it, but it's more of his leadership. He's just a great guy. He knows when to get on you, he knows when to take it easy on you, and he's really good at being a leader, and I'm just kind of doing my best to take over where he left off.
Now, I've been out here. I've seen you play. I've seen you make some pretty serious throws. Who is it that you depend on when you got to get a ball out? It's third down. You got to make sure that someone comes down with it. Who's the dependable receiver for this team?
There's a lot of choices. Camden's really fast. Zion's really quick. Micah's just a great athlete. So we got a lot of options. So there's just so many options to throw to. It just coming down to what situation is.
Now, Basha beat Perry over and over and over and over again. The script flipped. And then last year, you played them twice, back-to-back, and it was competitive both times. What's special about that rivalry, and what can we expect this year? Now, I'm not asking you to make a prediction or anything like that, but just what kind of effort can we expect this year?
It's just going to be hard-hitting. We're going to be competitive, and we're going to be going at each other. We're right a mile down the street. We all know each other, but when you get on the field, it's just like we're going after each other. So, it's just physical.
You still view them as like the little brother who just got a couple?
Yeah, they just got a couple. We're definitely getting them this year.
I appreciate your time, Gabe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph Amsden, ArizonaVarsity.com, out here at Basha High School's Media Day with Micah Harper. It's been an interesting couple of years for Basha. You had the coaching transition. You guys were really competitive last year, and now the expectations are a lot higher than they were before for this team. What's the attitude going into this season for Basha?
We got to show the state that we belong. Last year, we kind of snuck up on people, but this year we're not sneaking up on anyone. Like, everybody's expecting us to have a pretty good season, so we gotta upheld to that expectation.
Now, you had a chance to go out and talk with my guy Brett Quintyne out on the radio out there. What was that experience like, going out there, just being on the Saturday morning radio show and getting some publicity?
It was pretty cool. It's a neat experience. Not everybody gets to do that, so it was pretty cool. We got to talk about Basha High School, some of my recruitment.
Now, you're all the way out here in the far East Valley, but it really feels like you still have a brotherhood with a lot of different players from around the state.
Yep.
How did that develop? How does everybody know Micah Harper? How does Micah Harper know everybody else?
All right, so for this past spring, I played on this team called 2020. It's a 7-on-7 team with the best football players in Arizona, and we got kids from all the way from the west side of Phoenix to Tucson.
I've seen you out here. I've come out and watch you do stuff on both sides of the ball. Obviously, colleges love you as a defensive back. Where do you like lining up? Like, what brings you excitement?
I like playing corner more than offense, but this year I hope to showcase my offensive game and hopefully get some offers for offense.
Now, I mean, you got to be around a guy like Ty Sifferman who literally did everything. And now it's kind of your team, right? Like you and Gabe and a couple other people are stepping up as the leaders. What did Ty teach you in his time here?
Just to be a leader and just like to go hard every play. So last year, me and him and Joe Barney was the ones that went both ways last year. And with just him being on the team, just knowing that like the passion that he had for the game, and like it really just rubs off on you, and you don't want to let him down. You know what I mean?
So Coach McDonald, he came out here from Maricopa where he worked and changed the culture out here. It was the same deal. They brought him out here to make sure the kids want to stay at Basha. Because it's tough, man. You got high schools every mile out here, and the second that maybe something isn't going somebody's way, it's easier for them to just, to go to the next thing. But, they're working on containing the culture that Basha has, keeping the players here. How do you feel like that's working out the last couple of years?
It's pretty good. So also, what's going to help a lot of kids stay is our record, and we got to keep up with every other school. So this year we got new uniforms, keeping up with other schools in the region. Our region is pretty competitive. It's 6A Premier. It's the best in the whole state. So also a lot of kids are getting scholarship offers out of here, and that's pretty big because everybody wants to play college football, and the more people that get out of here, more people is going to come in.
Well, speaking of college football, you've been getting offers from people. You've been going on visits. You got my people out at the University of Wyoming are on you, and some others. Who's kind of standing out to you, and what is it about those schools that appeals to you?
Some schools are Army, Nevada, San Diego State, Syracuse. So I like those schools a lot. They've been showing a lot of interest. I took officials to Army and Nevada. Army, they just got a lot of money and a lot to present.
And they're winning now.
Yeah, top 19 in the nation. Best facilities. It's a lot of history.
They hung with Oklahoma, right? I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. So they held Oklahoma to I believe like 26 points.
So
and
like,
that's pretty crazy.
Like you were saying, like the reason people come to Basha, you guys show you can win. Now more interest in Army because they're out there winning double digits. All right, hey, I really appreciate your time. Best of luck to Basha this year.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yep.
Ralph Amsden, ArizonaVarsity.com, out here at Basha High School with James Durand, incoming freshman offensive lineman. I mean, did you know that when you were coming in, you were probably going to have a chance to compete and play on varsity as a freshman, or was that something where you showed up in weights and stuff over the summer, showed what you could do, and kind of earned it?
I feel like without the freshman team that I was with, that I got better with, I wouldn't have had it. They're my brothers all 4 years, and I love being with them no matter what happens.
And so you spent all that time working out with them and thinking like, hey, I'm probably going to be on the freshman team, and then you just got the opportunity to come and play with some of the varsity guys as well.
Yeah.
Right on. So talk to me just a little bit about what the off season has been like. You and the rest of that class. What kind of work have you guys been putting in?
Me and the freshman class just starting to learn the plays and building a brotherhood. That started way before we went to camp, but got stronger as we were at camp. And I just love being with them, like I already said.
What do you like so far just about playing for Coach McDonald, and what game do you have circled on the schedule?
I just want to be on the field. That's all. I just want to be on the field, and I don't really care where I am. But I like field time, so that's
doesn't matter
all.
to you.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So your brother, I mean, your brother was probably going to have a massive senior season. He ends up having to sit out most of it with an injury. What did he teach you? What was he able to show you just throughout his playing career and in that year where he had to sit out?
He just taught me that not everything's about football. Not everything's just about sports. In that time, he was doing all the applications to go to Yale and all that stuff. And he just taught me that there's more than just football. And he also taught me all the footwork, and he started working out with me, and he got me better over time.
Right on. Hey, well, it was really, really nice to meet you. I appreciate getting a chance to interview you out here. As far as your brother goes, is he a little bit jealous that you might get a little bit of varsity playing time a little earlier than he did? You hold that over him at all?
No.
No sibling rivalry at all?
No, because I still know that it doesn't really matter because he's still working to get better, and I'm just working to chase him.
Yeah, you can't poke a bear like a college athlete. Still a little brother. I appreciate you.